is the Sensitive CEO Show, igniting sensitive entrepreneurs to grow your heart-centered business. I'm your host, Rose Cox, and this podcast shares with you inspiring and thought-provoking conversations for sensitive entrepreneurs wanting to grow a sustainable online business in a way that feels exciting and aligned with your soul. Along with my carefully curated expert guests, we share science-backed advice, proven strategies, and the systems we use to succeed in our businesses and our lives as highly sensitives, introverts, and empaths. And by the way, if you would like to be updated on when each episode is released, feel free to subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll also get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. To subscribe, pop on over to the website sensitiveceo.show or rosecox.com/pod. Now on to today's show. Hey, it's Rose and welcome to another episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. And in this week's episode, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Josh Speraneo. Josh is a certified master life coach on a mission to change the way the world views high sensitivity. Welcome, Josh. Wonderful to talk with you today.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we met via a previous guest, Jen Corcoran, who was a previous guest on the podcast, and she introduced us on LinkedIn. And I'm so excited that the two of you are co-hosting a summit that is going to coincide with World HSP Day in early October. Do you want to share a little bit about that before we dive into your topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jen had attended a summit for World Introvert Week or National Introverts Week. I'm not sure exactly which way it's phrased. And she just had contacted me afterward and said, wouldn't it be cool if we did a World HSP Day summit? And I said, yeah. And I had posted that Friday with a list of many of my favorite highly sensitive people on LinkedIn. And she thought, well, let's just grab that list and start contacting everybody and seeing who's interested. And we've had over 20 people sign up to speak and to share during that time, and really just to raise awareness around the topic of high sensitivity and really help people understand better what it means to be highly sensitive. But also just we'll have some phenomenal speakers on there who will share their own stories, their own journeys, and also just share a lot of what I think of as success and survival skills for highly sensitive people. So I'm really excited to see what that brings up, how we raise awareness there, and the impact we can have. So people are welcome to follow me on LinkedIn or to follow Jen. And then really a lot of the speakers, I'm sure, will also be reaching out to their email lists and followers. And we will definitely just keep your ears open. And as we get closer to October, there will be a lot of announcements and more information coming.
Brilliant. And I'll be posting about it too. Maybe I should have you and Jen on the podcast beforehand as well. I'm not sure if that'll work with our 3 time zones, but have one of you, because then we can talk about it again closer to the time if you're up for that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Brilliant. And you've got so many wonderful speakers. I know a lot of them I met through my HSP summit. So I know a lot of them already. And yeah, I'm blown away by the people that you've got. It's just, I'm so excited about it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, when Jen told me who all had signed up, I just thought, oh, that's like my HSP dream team. This is amazing. So I can't wait to share that with everybody, with the world. It's going to be so exciting.
Yeah, so cool. So today we're talking about success and survival skills for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. And I wanted to start off by asking you, Josh, when did you discover you were an HSP and an empath?
So it was just this past year. And what happened was I kept walking by the book, The Empath Survival Guide, at a bookstore. And I'd read a little bit out of it, pick it up and just think, oh, there's something here for me, but I don't have the money today, or, I wasn't really ready or I guess there was a puzzle piece and my brain just hadn't made the connection. And when I actually sat down one day and read through the checklist for Are You an Empath, I thought, I check all of these boxes except for, yeah, maybe one or two. And in the process of reading that book, Dr. Judith Orloff talks about being a highly sensitive person and what that means. And so that led me to the self test on Dr. Elaine Aron's site. And again, it was all but maybe one or two that I checked off. And I just thought, there's something here for me. There's something going on here that I need to pay attention to. And as I learned more about what it means to be a highly sensitive person, which part of that process was going past the stereotypes, because that's where a lot of people get hung up is, well, I don't like the word sensitive. And especially a lot of men, I don't like the word sensitive. And that's, if your definition of sensitive is weak or broken or frail, I can understand that. But when you understand more of what she means by sensitive, the idea that our nervous system is more active and we take in more information, that we are sensitive to the needs and the emotions of others and to the things going on around us. When you really look into it, I just thought, this is me. This is my life story. This is who I've always been. And now suddenly I can look back at my past and I can really understand why I struggled in some of the ways I did growing up and why I faced some of the challenges that I have. But then on the other side of that, you also realize, wow, there are so many strengths
Mhm.
that are tied to these extrasensory skills that are built into us. And that really, especially the empathy that comes with that, I've always known I had, but it's like you can learn how to channel that and how to focus that and use it to help and serve others. And so it's just been this incredible journey of self discovery and really a transformation from the inside out to where I feel like now I know who I am more so than I ever have in my life, but I also am in a position to help and serve others in ways that I never dreamed possible because of that process of self discovery. So it's been an incredible journey, really, just in, like I said, over this past year, really diving in and just reading and listening to as much as I possibly could. Because again, as I learn more, I just suddenly I understand the person I see in the mirror so much more, and it's been phenomenal.
Wow, I love that story. And normally when I ask people, they discovered before me. So I discovered in 2021, which is really recent as well. But this is so nice to meet someone who discovered more recently than me. And
Yeah.
it just sounds absolutely life-changing for you as well when you did discover.
It has been. And I think it's been phenomenal and it's been life changing for me, but it also, I think, has been life changing for friends and family members of mine as they've seen me come to life in light of this discovery and really lean in and dive deeper. And again, it's one of those things that as we learn how we're wired, it informs how we pursue relationships, it informs our self care, it informs how we view the world. And then it also affects how we okay, if I realize that I'm highly sensitive and I know that on occasion I'm going to need to recharge instead of engaging in another social event, then when I do show up to events, they get the full me, they get the real me, they get 100%. It's not Josh with half a battery or the leftovers of Josh. And I think that that's been one of the most amazing aspects is knowing that when I engage with people, they really are getting my whole heart, my whole attention. And it's been so it's been transformative on so many different levels.
Mm, wow. And I know we've been chatting a bit on LinkedIn and some of the posts, like you share some amazing posts and you always share such nice comments as well on my posts, which I really
Oh, yeah.
appreciate. But something that we both talk about a lot is resilience. And
Mhm.
I really believe that resilience is one of our most amazing superpowers. And I know that you commented on one of my posts that talked about resilience, but can you share more about what resilience means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that by our nature as highly sensitive people, we are also highly resilient people. And we may not realize it at first, or we may not, when we first hear that word, think, oh, that's me. But when you consider the fact that as highly sensitive people, we're living in a world that is brighter, louder, faster, and more overwhelming to us as highly sensitive people, just the fact that we get up, get ourselves out of bed, and we go through a normal day's activities and come home at the end of the day and we have survived that whole process, especially for a lot of us decades before we even realize what a highly sensitive person is and we know how to control our energy and how much we go out. Just in that process, we have developed incredible resilience to be able to go in the world and just to function and to oftentimes keep up with people who aren't highly sensitive in terms of energy and contribution in the workplaces that we're in. And so, in so many ways, we already have developed a lot of success and survival skills just based on the lives that we're already living. And so, resilience in my mind is like a muscle. And so, it's one of those things that even if we're just discovering that we're highly sensitive, it's there somewhat, but then we can start building it intentionally and we can say, okay, now that I know that I have maybe a slightly more limited emotional or energetic battery than other people, I can learn how I recharge best. I can learn what my limitations are, and I can start to set my schedule and set up my routine in a way that serves me and enables me to have as much energy as possible for the things that I really am excited to engage in. And then I can also set some boundaries and be a little bit more choosy about where my energy goes and what I say no to, which I think both of those things are powerful, choosing what to say yes to, but also knowing when to just say, no, I can't, or that's not going to work for me, or can we do that another time? And just taking back that control as well.
I love that advice. I was going to ask for tools to help build resiliency, but I think what you've shared is enough, unless you can think of any more.
So I think in terms of resilience, that's a great question. And for me, a key tool is just learning to properly use our boundaries. And so there's two levels to my understanding of boundaries. One is personal standards, what I do and what I don't do, and the other is boundaries for relationships. And so what I allow others to do to or towards me, and then where I draw lines so that people don't cross them. And so a lot of it is, and that's a trial and error process. It's not just I slap up a boundary and now the world has to follow it. But with family and friends, we just have to decide, okay, do I really need more sleep? And if I do, how do I set a boundary with my friends and family of, hey, if you call me after 9, I may or may not answer because from now on, I know I need my 8 hours of sleep. And so I'm setting a boundary here of, at 9 o'clock, I go to bed. At 5 o'clock, I'm up. If it's an emergency, yeah, reach out. But if not, then, this is a boundary I have to set for myself. And so I think a big part is just setting those boundaries, setting those personal standards. And then the other thing is looking at what is there in my life that drains me? What is there that just exhausts me? And how can I start to limit those things? Or like we were talking about earlier, how can I start to get more rest or energize more so that if I have to do those things, I have the energy to do it, but I also have a recovery time planned afterward. And I think that that's how we build up those strengths. And I actually, one other note on that while we're there is I've realized too that as empaths, obviously we're taking in a lot of energy from the people around us. But what's really cool is that as an empath, what you can do is not just learn how to conserve your energy and choose where you use it, but you can learn how to, rather than absorbing everything from around you, you can choose an emotion to emit to other people and to share with other people. And that's been kind of a unique discovery for me just recently is that, wait a minute, I'm not a victim here unless I choose to be. But if I walk into the supermarket, instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to be so overwhelmed and setting myself up for exhaustion, I can think, what if I can just smile at everybody I see? And what if I could share joy with everybody I see? So there's building up that muscle of sharing joy and being resilient and emitting energy that we want to emit just so that we create the world around us in a new and exciting way. And we bring the energy and bring the joy that we want other people to experience. And so, and we can do that with any lens or any emotion that we want to share with people: compassion, love, gratitude. The possibilities are really endless once we realize that that's within us to do that.
Beautiful, beautiful. What are some other of our innate gifts as HSPs and empaths?
So the way that I break it down in my program, I think of it as innate gifts. We have beauty, courage, wisdom, joy, and love. And so in the program, I break each of those down even further to where with beauty, we have uniqueness and we have boldness. So uniqueness is kind of the internal expression and boldness is the external. And so, and one of the things I include a lot in my posts is the phrase, the truth about you is beautiful. And really, if people get nothing else out of this call, I hope that that line will stick with them, because I literally believe that everyone we encounter has an innate beauty to them. And it may have gotten covered up by scars and traumas and failures and mistakes, but that doesn't define us. Who we are underneath all of those things is beautiful. And so I think learning to see our uniqueness, our unique gifts, and our unique perspectives, and to share those with the world, which is where courage comes in and boldness, becoming more confident and living out that uniqueness is so transformative. And so those are the first ones that come to mind. And love, I always think of in terms of compassion. So, how can I take action on the needs that I see around me, which is really where compassion comes in? It's not just seeing the need and feeling sorry for somebody, but how do we take action and do something about it? And that's one of the things I love about being part of this HSP movement that you and I are a part of, is that there's this opportunity to help so many other people come on this journey of self-discovery that you and I have been on, so that they don't have to go as far into life or any further into life, not understanding who they are, how they're wired, and what these innate strengths and gifts are. And I think one of the other ones that we have is curiosity.
Yeah.
And so that's where wisdom and curiosity kind of fit together. And there is, just with our depth of processing that we have as highly sensitive people, we see things in a unique way, and we come up with creative solutions that other people might not. I always think of us as like the best mediators. And so when we're in a meeting, and I've mentioned this in a post before, but it's like there's the conversation that's happening in the meeting, there is the emotional undercurrent in the meeting, and then there are the unconscious or the physical cues that you and I would pick up on. And so they're really about three different conversations going on at the same time. And as highly sensitive people, we tend to pick up on all three of those. And so we can tell when this person's getting tense, and we may need to take a little bit of a break or change the subject, or give them a minute to share what's going on with them before they burst. And so it's fascinating how we can use these innate gifts that we have, especially empathy and using our sensitivity to subtleties, to see, okay, there's something going on here. Let's slow down. Let's bring this out, and let's, as a group, really dig in and figure out what's going on, so that we emerge on the same page and excited and motivated. And I think, again, as empaths, one of the great things is being able to pick up on that emotional energy and then change it. So if we go into a meeting, there's a lot of tension. Can we take that to a neutral place and get everyone relaxed and calm and ready to work together? And then can we take that energy up a notch and send everybody out ready to tackle the project or whatever it might be together? And I think a lot of us don't necessarily realize, because work can be so stressful, that we have that ability built into us. And again, it's part of that resilience muscle. It takes some time to build that up, but eventually we can get to where we can help motivate people. We can bring the best out of people. We can see that person who has this special gift that nobody else seems to see, and we can focus in on, hey, why don't we let so-and-so share? Or, hey, what's your idea? And when they get to share that, they come to life in a way they may not have as well. And then suddenly it's like, we're all in this together. We're all at our best. And the end product of that is so far beyond what it would have been if we didn't share our gifts, if we didn't use our gifts, and if we didn't really invest in that meeting and channel that to see where we could go together. So it is just absolutely amazing what can happen there.
I love that you talk about that, the gift of making people feel at ease and just diffusing a situation. I think that's a really overlooked gift. And I think what makes me sad, but also inspires me to help people, is to help people get over any lack of confidence and those sort of emotional blocks, those limiting beliefs, so that they can get out there and share their gifts. Because I think the gifts, as you pointed out, there's so many. And rather than focus on the challenges, which I don't like to focus on, but the gifts, there's just so many. And there's a lot of people that miss out if we don't get out there and share what we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for so many of us, especially those of us who are highly sensitive people, the way that I've come to describe it is this 3-step process of awareness, which is just becoming aware that we're highly sensitive, or that we're empaths, or even just understanding that we're introverts and what that means. And so that might be a self-test like 16personalities.com or the hsperson.com self-test on Dr. Elaine Aron's site, or on Dr. Judith Orloff's site. She has a self-test for empaths. And so I like to start people there and just encourage them, go take the test, see what the score is, and come back to me. Let me know how you scored. And then we can begin the conversation when you know what your Myers-Briggs personality type is, when you realize whether or not you're an empath or whether or not you're a highly sensitive person. But we gain that awareness. And then, like you're saying, there's that step of understanding. So, okay, now I know that I'm an empath and I'm a highly sensitive person. What does that mean? And so, obviously, there is where a lot of people understand the overstimulation side of things, which we have to take into account. But a lot of, I think in previous days, a lot of people stop there of you're a highly sensitive person, you get overstimulated, which means that you just got to take it easy and take a bubble bath at the end of the day. And, you're so sensitive and, you've got to baby yourself. To me, that's out of the four aspects of high sensitivity. So depth of processing, overstimulation, emotional responsiveness or empathy, and then the sensitivity to subtleties. Overstimulation is the least of our concerns because personal development has shown us how to take care of ourselves and really move past that or find the coping skills we need to take care of the overstimulation aspect. And it's like, instead, let's look at the superpowers that are built into us as highly sensitive people. And so much of my coaching is like, okay, now that we understand that, let's go through what I call the awakening process and let's figure out where specifically you have gifts that can help you not only live a vibrant and fulfilling life, but help you to impact the lives of the people around you. It's like we each have these innate gifts built into us, and we have so much to offer the world. And I like you, I can't look at somebody and not see how incredible their potential is and want to cheerlead that out of them. And so when we go through this process of self-awareness and understanding, and we see, okay, here's my dream and my passion. How can I share this with the world? That's where I love to meet people and say, let's go. Let's figure out within the sphere of influence that you have, how can you use this enhanced empathy to take better care of your family and to contribute more at work? Or if they're a fellow coach, how can they use that empathy to understand where their clients are, meet them where they are, but then lead them to the fullest and most grand expression of these gifts and these talents that are lying within them? And so, like you said, and when you do that, when people come to life like that, there is this courage that comes out. And earlier today online, a lot of people were talking about how self-acceptance has caused this transformation for them. So they come to accept that they have these gifts and abilities. And then they learn, wait, I don't have to ask permission to be myself. I don't have to wait for someone to tell me it's okay to live out my goals and dreams. And what I always tell people is you are worthy and deserving of every good thing you desire in life. Mm. And I really work on that especially with my clients, to say, no, you don't have to ask permission to pursue your dreams. You just have to figure out what your dreams really are, get clear on that, and then go after them. And if they need help and support, that's where I love to come in and say, let's go, let's build that dream, let's bring it to life, and let's see what you can accomplish now that you know you have this strength within you. And the way that that expresses itself in people, I had a client who told me that at one point her family would catch her just smiling at random, like, Mom, you're smiling again. And for her, that was a huge deal because for so long she had felt burned out and exhausted. And just to absentmindedly smile was a huge thing. And when her kids would say, wow, I've never heard you laugh that hard, or I haven't heard you laugh that hard for a long time, it was really cool to see that. Or she would tell me she'd wake up with a smile on her face, which really goes back to the joy section of the program that I have. And to see people come alive with this enthusiasm and expectation for life is just absolutely incredible. And it all comes back to, have we taken the time to gain that awareness, to gain a real understanding, but then to say, you know what, now I'm awakening to this whole new life and I'm ready to embrace it.
How rewarding. I love that. And I'm the same. I love seeing clients really transform. And that, I guess that kind of leads me into, before we hit record, we were talking about the name of your program, The Way of the Phoenix. And the Phoenix has a really deep meaning for me as well, which is what I was sharing. But I'd love you to share a little bit about the Way of the Phoenix and how you work with your clients with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Way of the Phoenix is really a series of tools and resources that I discovered as I was developing coping skills and strategies for coming back from a place of what I call a compassion burnout. So there was a time in my life where there was a series of poor choices. I had been dealing with depression and low self-esteem and a lot of internal struggles. And I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to express what I was feeling. And so it came to this season of burnout where I just basically was trying to, a lot of it came from not having a strong sense of self-worth. And so I was looking at serving and helping others as my way of maybe that will help me to feel like I'm worthwhile. And obviously that can't. No matter how good we do, no matter how much we help others, if we don't have that strong sense of self-worth, eventually it leads to burnout because the world can't give us that. It has to come from within. And so after that season, I was looking for how do I rebuild my life from the inside out. And so the Way of the Phoenix was born out of that. And so like I said, it is those 5 steps, the 5 pillars of healthy self-esteem, which are beauty, courage, wisdom, joy, and love. And what we do in my program is we dive into each of those. So actually what we start with is identity. And I always think of it as reclaiming your identity. And so I spend a couple weeks with them there first because they need to figure out who their authentic self is so that they have that picture of where they want their life to go. I know if you've read Dr. Benjamin Hardy's book, Personality Isn't Permanent, he says in there, your authentic self is your future self, who you aspire to be. And so that's one of the first quotes I cover with my clients. And one of the first places we go is to forecast into the future. What do they really want their life to look like? What would their perfect life look like? Who is their authentic self? If they're looking through this mirror, and a lot of times I do what I call the funeral flyover exercise, which is we pretend like, okay, if you were to fly through the scene at your own funeral or memorial service, what stories would people tell? How do you want them to remember you? Would they say, he or she was compassionate, they were loving, they were gentle, they were kind, they were generous? And if we can figure out what's that person look like that we want to evolve into, well, suddenly we can reverse engineer your life to that point. How do you become more and more of that person that you aspire to be? And so we start with identity, we get that picture really clear, and then it's all about, okay, how do we take you through that step of beauty, and then the step of courage and wisdom and joy and love? And I can go through again how those break down. So with beauty, we have uniqueness and we have boldness. With courage, we have confidence and then we have resilience. With wisdom, we have insight and then we have perception. With joy, we have enthusiasm and expectation. And then with love is where we go really deep. And so we have freedom and we have compassion. And within that freedom step, we spend a lot of time on forgiveness, because I think so often until we can forgive ourselves for our past mistakes and poor choices, and we can forgive others, it's really hard to fully embrace the freedom that is our birthright and then step into living that out in the form of compassion. Because again, if we fail to go through that process and if we don't find that freedom, then when we are being compassionate, so often there's an agenda behind it and it loses its full impact because we're still trying to get something out of that. Whereas when we get to that point of freedom and self-love, then when we reach out to people, we're giving with all of our heart, and it multiplies and magnifies that impact in incredible ways and creates this positive ripple effect that I think all of us truly in our hearts desire to have in life. And that so often we can lose that because there is that lack of self-acceptance or lack of self-love that's still holding us back. So that's the basic breakdown. That's the path I take my clients through, again, to lead them to that vibrant and fulfilling life that I believe that we all desire, especially as empaths and introverts and highly sensitive people.
Brilliant. And I was going to say we desire it, but we also deserve it.
Oh, yes,
add that
absolutely.
to the end.
Yeah.
And I'll pop a link in the show notes, obviously, to that. But it sounds amazing. And your clients are very lucky to have you, Josh.
Well, thank you. And I just, before we go any further, would love to say that I have absolutely loved following along with your journey and following along with the work that you're doing. And I am honored to be here with you in this time, but even just to be journeying alongside you. I mean, so often what I share in comments on your posts are my sincere appreciation for the work that you're doing and the lives that you're transforming and the ways that you're bringing awareness to this, especially with your incredible podcast, but just the way that you are willing to put yourself out there and to raise your voice, to see the best in people, to help people come to understand themselves better, and to journey through this process of transformation. Because like you and I discussed earlier, it really is, it's like we're living a half-life before we discover that we're highly sensitive. It's like we don't know exactly why we don't fit in the world. A lot of us I mean, it's just not widely known that at least 1 in 5 people is highly sensitive. And so we go through knowing that we don't fit in, but not knowing why. And your message that you're sharing through your podcast, through the incredible guests that you bring on, like Jen and like so many of the others, you're raising that awareness. You're meeting people in a place where if they don't understand that, they can start to gain understanding. They can find resources and people to connect to who can take them on that journey. And my hope is that the work we're doing through this and through the summit, through that work, we can start to make it normal for people to know in every household what it means to be highly sensitive, so that little boys and little girls who are struggling so much in their own journeys can gain that understanding so much sooner and know that there's nothing wrong with them, that they're not broken, that they're not damaged, that they are wonderfully different, and that they have potential beyond their wildest dreams, and that they were made for something better, that they have this gift locked up inside of them, but they can unwrap it if they're given the right tools and resources and understanding. And, my hope is that maybe even just a couple years from now, it becomes normal to know what being a highly sensitive person is. It becomes normal for men to accept that label of highly sensitive and not be offended and not feel like it makes them frail or weak, but to realize that there are literal superpowers locked up in them in this gift. And if we can do that, again, even if we just help one, that's amazing, and I'll take it. But I believe we have the chance to impact an entire generation who are open and willing to say, okay, I want to know who I am. I want to know why I'm wired this way. I want to understand myself, and I want to embrace my gifts. And I'm so excited for the impact that you and I, and again, with the summit, so many others that we respect and we're journeying alongside, that we can all have to really change the world and change people's lives and their journey, so that they can tap into this and realize their gifts so much earlier, but then they can use that to impact so many others. And I think that as that happens, it's literally going to transform the world as we understand it. And it's going to create a dream that you and I, Willa McIntosh, Jen Corcoran, and so many others have, of a world. And even the book Sensitive that just came out from Jen Graneman and Andre Solo,
Yeah.
to me, that's just this refreshing look at what it means to be highly sensitive from a positive lens. And again, just the potential is unlimited. What we can do as long as we continue to raise our voices, raise awareness, guide people through understanding, and lead them to that point of awakening. And from there, when they springboard out of that, there's no telling what we can accomplish. It's going to be phenomenal.
Amazing, Josh. I can feel your passion and the emotion too. I think we both got a little bit emotional then.
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
So do I.
It's built in. No, I don't know that there's much that gets me as excited as just talking about that dream and that vision. And it really is what I show up for every day on LinkedIn and with my clients, and even just with family, friends, or my friends and their kids. When I realize that their child is highly sensitive, I don't tell them how to raise them, when to tell them, when to introduce the subject, but it's just like, now that you know, here are some things I wish my parents had known and could have helped me with. And now you have these tools and resources. And in seeing that, I know there's so much more that we can accomplish by raising this awareness. And there's just so much more to come. It's exciting.
I totally agree. And awakening just says it all. I just feel that there's a big awakening of not just HSPs and empaths, but, well, it is mainly us really that will be awakened, because we just see so much that the rest of the world doesn't see.
Yeah. But also in that same way, I think that as our energy rises, as we get more excited and as we're contributing more, it's good for everybody in the world. And it will really have this ripple effect, because the fact is that everyone we meet has unlimited and amazing potential. And everyone that we encounter has gifts and abilities and talents that they can use. I think we can understand a little bit more specifically how we're wired as HSPs and what that looks like for us. But there's no one we will ever meet who doesn't have boundless potential and who can't impact their world, if not the world, for the better, and who doesn't have dreams and desires. And so it's just one of those things that if we amplify as empaths and HSPs what other empaths and HSPs are doing, then suddenly there's that ripple effect where we're feeding into everyone around us. And like I talked about earlier, spreading that joy and that contagious energy and challenging people to say, hey, what is your dream and how can we achieve it together? And if we do that long enough, then eventually it shares and it spreads to everyone, and it literally transforms the world by just taking the time to transform the people around us.
Amazing. Well, we're coming up for time. I'm going to have to leave it there, and you're going to have to come back and be a guest so I can ask you the question that I ask everybody. But unfortunately, we don't have enough time for that. It's been so wonderful talking with you today, Josh. Thank you so much for everything that you shared, your passion, everything that's come through. I think this is a really powerful episode. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave me a review on sensitiveceo.show. Just follow the prompt in the menu. Each month, I'm offering one lucky reviewer a chance to win a 1-hour business and mindset audit with me. This in-depth audit covers the 5 pillars of your online business, and you'll walk away with super clear action steps specifically for you and your business. You'll be re-energized and motivated to step into your greatness. You'll also find all of the show notes for each episode on the website sensitiveceo.show. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, Empaths, and Introverts. And as the name implies, the email is short and sweet. The Sensitive CEO Show, igniting your sensitive superpowers.